Welcome to Accomplished Minds, a community of inspired, passionate people from around the world, building a new emerging economy. Today I'm chatting with Natalie Warne, an amazing young lady who, at the age of 17, became part of a cause called the Invisible Children Project, a campaign to rescue the Ugandan children from Joseph Kony child armies. I was struck by something in Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kohler's book, Abundance, in the chapter on risk and failure. They say that the engineers who got us to the moon were in their mid to late 20s.
Wow, that's
Fast,
insane.
fast forward 30 years, and once again, it was a group of 20-somethings driving a revolution, this
Yeah.
time in the dot-com world. They go on to say that youth and youthful attitudes drive innovation. It always has, and it always will. Natalie is a perfect example of this. She led a nationwide campaign for the project, and she got the campaign visible on the Oprah Winfrey Show, which dramatically raised the profile of the movement. Natalie has been featured on TED Teen in 2011, where she shared her story of how the young can make an incredible difference. Her TED Talk received an overwhelming 400,000 views from around the world. Welcome, Natalie, to Accomplished Minds.
Thank you.
So, the fear of failure can stop an idea in its track. It can kill productivity and let that idea languish for weeks or even a lifetime. Natalie, when you were 17, you were cold calling Oprah Winfrey. Were you even thinking about risk or failure?
I think at that point I was a little too ambitious. Like it wasn't something you just thought about, during our time when we were working. I never thought of it. I didn't think of it every single day as I'm going to get Oprah. Every day we had a task and you just executed that task every single day. And there were times when we felt like we did fail, especially the event lasted 6 days. And in my mind, I just thought it would be done in a day. I didn't think it would last for a week long, and I didn't think that it would take that long. And so every single day when you get more people coming and go out and you try to rally news reporters and they just blatantly ignore you, and you try to call from Oprah people to other celebrities and they just keep ignoring you. I think that was my feel of failure, because we just expected, since we worked so hard, for it to work out, and you feel the weight of all the participants and you feel the weight of your bosses, and we didn't want to let them down. But for me personally, I had been able to go to Uganda before I did the event, and I met some of the children and some of the adults and just heard their stories of the gruesome conflict. And so for us, it was more of, we have an opportunity to do something great, and we're letting them down. Like, we're letting the child soldiers and the night meters and the families that we've told we're going to do everything we can. And so I think the feeling of failure, it did come in waves. And I think that for us, we just kind of take it as a community where you allow yourself to have that moment, the freak out moment. And then you just have to pick yourself back up, because letting the failure, my boss would always say, if you let the feeling of failure sink in too far, you're not going to be able to move. And we had to keep moving. There was no option of stopping. So you just think about it for a minute, and then you just say, I'm going to try the next best thing. Because for me, when I started with Invisible Children, I knew that we probably weren't going to end this war the time I was there. It's just a fact. It probably wasn't going to happen, but I wanted to know that every single day I worked my damnedest to get it done. And I feel like when I left Invisible Children, I did feel going away with that feeling. And I think that we all did. And I think that was such an accomplishment, to just know that we're just going to do everything we can. And luckily, in the Oprah Winfrey case, it worked out on our benefit. So it was a good day.
That was a big worldwide opening being showed on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Now that you're in your mid-20s, you have more experience and responsibility. Has your perspective changed on risk and failure?
I think that my perspective, I know to expect a certain amount of failure. I think before I was just so ambitious, and you just think, oh my God, we're young, we believe. Like when I was younger, I thought if I believe in it enough, it will happen. But now I think what I always say to people, like what I learned the most at Invisible Children was, yes, I do believe anything can happen, but the amount of work will be excruciating. And I sometimes felt like the work was just going to be the death of me. But I think now I know that the things that I want to accomplish, I know that that much more work has to go into it. So I think it just kind of puts in a perspective of there are going to be failures, but you just got to keep going, and you're going to hit blocks. And I think for me, working in a community, again, of like-minded people and of people who are willing to embarrass themselves and are willing to try ridiculous things, and some of them may not work out as much, but I think more so I'm not scared to try things. I just have it in perspective of what is more realistic. And I'm also, I think, really blessed to have experienced my time in Invisible Children, because it made me kind of fearless, I guess, in realizing like, God, we really can accomplish so many things, and there's so many important things that need to be done and people's voices that need to be heard. And it's kind of like what I said in Anonymous Extraordinaries of like, there's going to be some times when fighting for a conflict in Africa and I feel like I could do some heroic thing, and there's sometimes where I have to sit behind a desk and take a call so that I can pay rent, And I think making sure to be to still carry on being passionate, but to be okay with that, like knowing that we're not always going to be saving someone's life every day, and extraordinary in those moments, because those will lead to whatever it is. So
I like that you mentioned Anonymous Extraordinaries. Could you expand on that for those of us who don't know?
When I worked at Invisible Children, there was a man named Bob Goff who he's a writer, and he was a lawyer who would come and he would just kind of inspire us. He would come and speak, and he had this saying of being secretly incredible. And all of us interns at Invisible Children, we kind of took that on of we weren't the face of Invisible Children. I wasn't the founder or the director, but we had to be okay with being secretly incredible. Like, even though we're not famous or anything, like just doing our best every day. And so when I was asked to do a TED Talk for Invisible Children, I was thinking of what I wanted to talk about. And for me, after I did the rescue, I was featured in the documentary at Invisible Children, and I got to go on tour and tour that documentary. So I did get a little publicity and FaceTime, and for a while you could consider like the poster child of that tour. And what I would always tell people is that that was not my story. Like, I was one person in that story, and they featured my story, but there was hundreds of other interns who did just as much work as me. And I always had somewhat of an insecurity with that spotlight, I guess, because I never wanted people to think that I thought that I did it by myself, because I was very aware that I did it. And so when they asked me to come speak, I wanted to shed light on everyone else. I wanted to shed light on our whole movement of interns and of roadies. And I wanted to talk about that secretly incredible lifestyle that we led. But I couldn't use the term secretly incredible because he made a book about it. And so I grew up loving superheroes, and I always wanted to kind of coin like what we were and to give us a title, I guess. And so Anonymous Extraordinaries kind of turned into a person, like an entity, I guess, of being an anonymous extraordinary. And really, I just liked this voice, a bunch of words, and that came up with it. But I kind of liked what that ended up being. So I was just said it's someone who's just tirelessly and effortlessly for something that they're passionate about, what they're not convicted by publicity and fame, but just about doing what's right.
So how do you connect with an effective organization?
For me, they came to my school and they did a presentation. And I would a lot of organizations though don't do that. Like, there's not a ton of organizations. There's maybe a handful who have incredible media and are able to do that. And so for me, I had never branched into the nonprofit world at all. When I was in high school, we had like mothers with drunk driving come in, or you just had the regular, firemen and stuff. And then when Invisible Children came, it just rocked my world. And I think what high schoolers and young people aren't exposed to that. But when I broke into that world and I realized like the thousands of other nonprofits that are doing everything under the sun in every country, on every continent. And I think what I always tell young people when they come to me, because I want to make it very clear that I don't only support like fighting against child soldiers. Like, that is what grabbed me. But I think there's thousands of other causes that need foot soldiers and need people to fight on their behalf. And so I always tell people, if Africa is not for you, that's fine, you know, but do research. Like, really, it's just about research, because there's, like, Invisible Children craves people to come and be on their side and to speak on behalf of them. And Invisible Children is very lucky for the amount of followers they have, and they're very lucky for the type of media that they are able to produce. But not all nonprofits can, and they need people. And so I'm always just encouraging people, go online, do research. First, I think, find what you want to do, and then just look into that, and just make calls, like cold call, you know, and just not being afraid to just take a good amount of time. I would always say, like, take time, months or a year, to like figure out what you want to do, and then go after it, because I know that there's been people who've come to Invisible Children who aren't really ready, and it's difficult. And I would say, for an organization who needs people, like, once you commit to that, you've made a commitment. So I think it's hard for people to back out. So I would say, like, take the time to figure you out, and then go find what you want to do and the people, because they're there waiting.
From a practical standpoint, what has been the most single important thing for you in achieving what you have?
For me, my time working at Invisible Children and the people that I've been surrounded by have given me just this, like, craving, and it just helped me find what I was passionate about. And for me, I would say I'm passionate about storytelling. I'm passionate about it in so many elements, from filmmaking to acting to nonprofits, and being able to share stories, because I feel like when we can share a vulnerable story and have that human connection, like, that has changed my life, and it's literally physically changed people's lives, and I've seen it. And I didn't realize I had that passion until I was exposed to Invisible Children, and I sometimes forget that a lot of young people have not found what they're passionate about, and they don't have someone investing in them, telling them, one, you can do whatever you want, but two, like, let's sit down and think of what you're good at or what you like. And I think something that I have learned is what I've learned in myself, but now I love to be able to go to school and to speak to young people and be like, sit down and, like, let's think about what you want to do, because you're capable of anything, you know, because I really do believe if anyone had been given the attention and care and nurturing and challenging like I had in my position, I think any young person could have been put in my position and accomplished it. But I don't think that every young person is given the opportunity to find that, or to be given just those chances. So I think, for me, I've been so excited to learn what I'm capable of as a young person, but also to realize, like, what I've learned, it would be selfish to keep it to myself, and it is a necessary thing to let other young people, and even people older than me, know that it's okay to, like, dream big, and it's okay to want to find that. But just, I guess, investing. Like, I was so invested in for 3 years, and I continue to be invested in, and I don't think there's a lot of young people who are taking the time to be invested in, and I think that that's very important, because anyone could have done, you know, there's so many anonymous extraordinaries who don't know that they are one. And that investing in. So
it's investing their time, their commitment, and making the decision to go the long way, no matter how hard the road is. How can a more traditionally structured company, which is in the majority in the developing world, make the change to use the energy and the natural innovative qualities of young people?
I think, one, you have to get young people excited about things, and I think that's hard with a more, like you said, traditional, like, Invisible Children does not have any walls. Like, they're able to do and try crazy things, but not all companies can do that, and I understand that. And because Invisible Children can take those risks, they're able to do things that are purposely targeted to young people. And I think one thing that I have seen that has changed a lot of organizations for me is having good media. And young people now are so, like, we have a 2-second attention span, and it has to be flashy, and it has to be whether it's something nostalgic or it just has to be something, because we're just oversaturated by media and by Facebook, all these things. And so I think the thing is to just somehow be able to find a way in whatever organization or corporation or something it is to really invest in how to attract the young people. Because once you get them, like, they're excited enough to go after it, but it's just learning how to tell your story in a way that it's going to attract that direct crowd, I guess. And that's something, again, Invisible Children's really lucky to do because it's targeted toward the young audience. But not everything is, I guess. So I guess I'm still trying to figure that one out because I've been asked that a lot. And it's hard because I know if organizations or businesses or corporations could just get a hold of young people, they would have such an incredible army to help whatever mission they're trying to accomplish.
What is your personal definition of success?
I think success for me would be how I can be selfless enough to use my life in a way to help as many other people as I can, and because I think at the end of the day, for me, when I'm like older and I have children, I would rather be able to say the amount of work I put in to this conflict and Joseph Kony ended up being captured versus like I went to school and I had this great job and blah, 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 and I made all this money. Because my mom has always been in social work. She's been a teacher for years, and now she's a social worker, and she works with homeless women and children cases, and just see her and my dad have led such an example for me and wanting to get into just a life of service.
How can individuals from less developed communities overcome cultural inertia or overcome their cultural and financial issues?
I would say I think why a lot of times my stories can relate to young people in those situations is because I grew up in a not very good area. I grew up in a kind of dangerous low-income area, and my family did not have a ton of money by any means, and we moved here and there for work. And luckily, though, I do have parents that really encourage me to just try and send letters to family members, and maybe they'll give you money, like save up, get a summer job or whatever. I would say that what I've learned too is that there's always some option. It may just not be the easiest. You may not be the kid that their parents are allowed to pay their way to do whatever this is, but whether it's taking that time to save up, or I guess realizing that it doesn't have to happen immediately. I ran into a problem of, I feel like I had a lot of success in a short period of 2 years. And so then when I realized, oh my God, I have no money and I need to spend like 7 months just working, I felt like I fell backwards. Like I felt like I had taken a step back, which in reality, I'm still just 22, like everything's fine. And I think taking that perspective too of there's no rush, do it the right way and take some time, ask questions, I think the biggest thing is finding a mentor and finding someone, because again, I'm really blessed to have 2 parents in my household, and a lot of kids don't. And I think finding someone who can take on that role and just more of as an advisor and mentor to be like, because one, there's a lot of scholarships available for doing projects or different things, or grants that are available, or people that are just waiting to invest in people, but it's really hard to find that stuff, And so I think a really important thing is find someone who's more educated, who's smarter, who's older, who's done more life than you, and just ask a million questions and just ask them to just invest in time to help you pursue what you want to pursue.
What's the next chapter for Natalie Warne?
The next chapter for me, after I did my TED Talk, I didn't realize how much attention that was going to get. It is like over 500,000 views at this point, and I started just getting a lot of requests for speaking engagements. And I never thought, I did that for a year with Invisible Children, but I never thought that would be something that I would do, And now a lot of people call me up or email me and just say, we want you to come and speak to these young people, or at this conference, or at this school or something. And for a while it was strange because I had only spoken on behalf of Invisible Children. And now they were saying, no, we don't, that's part of your story, but we want to hear from you. And so now that's kind of become a part of my life. My life is kind of, I moved to Los Angeles, and I love feature film, and I love more of the story development type of films. I think documentaries are so important. I think they're wonderful. But for me, I just love that storytelling element of being able to like create a film and just have to work across something that was already there. And so for me, I'm going in the direction of continuing to pursue filmmaking and to doing public speaking.
Well, I believe you are on the right track.
Thank you.
And you're quite humble and adventurous. And as you say, you know, you keep putting yourself out there and you keep trying new things, and whatever speaks to you, and as you say, service to people, you will get your goal.
Definitely. Thank you.
And I would love to thank you for taking time out from a busy schedule. Thank you so much, Natalie. It's a pleasure interviewing you.